Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Mic check 1 2 3 4 5. Perfect. Thank you so much for confirmation. Very much appreciate that. I was having a bunch of technical difficulties this morning, so starting off without a hitch is always nice. How's everyone doing today? Harry, you hear me over on Twitter? That's good to know. Good to know. Glad to have someone joining us on Twitter, by the way. We are live right now on every platform, pretty much. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, the list goes on. And I just noticed that my headset is dead. So I'm gonna have it plugged in today. This is gonna be just an absolute blast. All right. Test. A little quiet. My mic is quiet, or the music? Also, remember, you can adjust the volume on your end if it's a little quiet, too. Yeah, I'm just noticing that my mic is turned way up. Oh, goodness. Okay. I think it's time. Mic levels are good. Yeah, I usually keep the music lighter anyway. So. Oh, and my camera cover was on. Y'all should be able to see me now, right? Welcome back, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Today is Mapmaker Monday, your favorite day of the week. On Mapmaker Monday, we host a live build for you to watch, learn from, absorb, and share feedback and suggestions on. So you can actually learn from a build in real time from someone who has over 2,500 hours or so in Dungeon Alchemist between betas and real, real-time use. So I am eager to kick the knowledge to you and guide you through your map-making journey, and assist you with any concepts you might be struggling with. For instance, today's stream focuses on multi-level building with a circular tower. We've been covering this for a couple of weeks now. I think it's like the 4th or 5th stream we've done this. And each week we've been kind of fleshing out this little wizard's respite, if you will. A tiny little tower in the forest where a wizard can get away and do his research and, just do what he needs to when he needs. So, if you're just joining us, I appreciate you being here. And again, my name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. If you have any questions related to what you see in front of you, please don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, throughout the stream, if you have any suggestions or feedback related to the map, please let me know, and I will do my best to try and implement it as well. Let's see here. Trying to get the Steam stream up. Anyway, I see TikTok, I see Steam. Hoping the video will come. Okay. Hey, by the way, Kilk, welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Okay, so moving on. This wizard tower is 3 floors. Well, actually 4 floors, technically. And we plan to do at least one more above this one. But for right now, we're working on the bedroom level, which is essentially a... It's up, but I'm not seeing the video feed. So it just keeps... Oh, there it is. I just refreshed it and it came up. Cool. And I'm just going to run this cord through my headset. Probably should have light it earlier and then I wouldn't be so awkward. Wear it backwards. Cool. Yeah, Steam sometimes takes about 5-10 minutes to connect. So it's always weird. Oh, Pondit's Plaza over at TikTok says TikTok feed's working great. Thank you so much, Pondit. I appreciate that. Much appreciated. So we were working on this last week, which is essentially a bedroom for the wizard. We added a nice little kind of wash, table, a little bathtub area, put a rubber duck, some shelving and stuff like that. It's a very, very fancy bath. Oh, you normally lurk? Well, I appreciate you saying hello, and thank you for being a longtime supporter. We've got a wizard's bed, which this is a new asset that became available after the magic update. If you're not familiar with it, you can actually go through and change like any of the canopy to be very drastically different, so there's a lot of cool options. I like that. Anyway, I put my puppy Seymour here. He has his own little bed next to the bed. And then I kind of had like a little area I was working on over here before he wrapped up the last stream. So cloak, backpack, like a little display case. We set up a little bit of a closet and kind of a little loot area. This will be a staircase going up to the next level. So, excuse me, I have such a sore throat. I've streamed a lot more this last week than I normally would because we've been on sale. So I did some extra days and it really just wrecked my throat. I've also been working on some voiceover for some ads and whatnot. Well, like ads as well as tutorials to guide people through all the new stuff in the update because there's a lot of new content and I wanted to blend it with our existing stuff so it makes sense as a whole. Instead of it being all separated and whatnot, I'm hoping to kind of streamline our tutorials into like kind of a basic guide. Anyway, long story short, that's been taking a toll on my voice. These floors are designed to be pulled apart. I essentially made them so each level is resting on the floor above it. So all of the walls, the decorations, they're resting on that floor so I can move it as one solid piece. That allows you to essentially pull it apart and do exports in that way, if you want to. So, I can essentially pull this floor off, delete it, do an export of just this floor, do an export of just the lower floor, same thing. I can Control Z to undo that. Oh, I got a new piece of software. And I wanted to test it out today. I wanted to get everyone's feedback on this. This is one of 2 things I want to incorporate in the stream, as well as in tutorial videos, and I would love to get everyone's feedback on this. So, do you see my mouse cursor highlighted at the moment in green? I'm assuming that makes it easier to track the mouse. Notice when I click, too, there's an inner green dot. Kind of darker. Excuse me. So this is one thing I'm going to incorporate into the tutorial aspects and stream aspects. I want to be able to highlight where the mouse is and make it easier for people to see it, so it's easier to follow tutorials. Oh, Mac's clicking on the collision toggle. Oh, Mac is clicking on this and moving it around. This is what he's doing. It makes it easier to see where the mouse is at any given point. I'm open to feedback on this, by the way. If you don't like it or aren't happy with it or whatever, let me know. Maybe the color's off-putting or whatever. And we may need to change it depending on the biome. But I think overall it's really easy and it draws, you know, your eyes to it. Allowing you to at least be able to see the mouse better and follow what I'm doing to a degree. The other thing that I'm interested in doing is I want to add keystroke tracking for when I'm streaming, so it'll show which keys I'm pressing. You know, probably somewhere on the screen that wouldn't interfere visually too much. And essentially, like when I'm holding shift, for instance, to duplicate something, or when I'm holding control, or when I'm undoing something, you can see that on the screen and get visual feedback of that. I'm a little worried about it because sometimes when I'm streaming, my bosses and there's work, you know, flow that comes through, and I'll be typing things that are kind of, I would consider, sensitive information. So I wouldn't want all my keystrokes showing or being tracked for that matter. I'm wondering if I can exclusively show certain keystrokes because those are the very common ones. The keystroke thing I haven't done as much research on. So the mouse tool is called Mouse Highlight. I found it on the Microsoft like App Store, and it was free and it was simple. It just works very good. There's not a lot to it. And I like that because it works as an overlay, as a permanent fixture on any app I'm in. So whether I'm streaming or recording, it's there. And I can turn it on and off very easily. Just a click. So I like that one. There was some other tools out there. Some of them cost, some of them were free. I'm just trying something out before I invest in it. You know, I want to see how it feels, and I want community feedback. But the keystroke tracking, I know a lot of streamers do that to show what they're pressing when they're playing games. And I feel like that would be very valuable visual feedback in a stream where we're building stuff and there's constant, you know, presses of buttons. The shift and the control key particularly, Z key, the Y key, you know, there's different things we press, and I think it would be nice to track that. So anytime like a hotkey is pressed, you might know, oh, Mac is saving, Control S. You know what I mean? That's weird. Why is Control S making my screen jump? I guess it's just doing the camera. I honestly kind of like the green to match our branding, but yeah, I'm open to whatever. I'm open to suggestions. And I do think they have a keystroke overlay that shows the keys, and it's like a permanent fixture, so they just light up when they're being pressed. There's kind of different options. So I could make like a custom overlay. Caillou says, hello, last Friday I ran my 7th session. Wouldn't be possible for me to run the sessions I run without DA. I like to write a lot of lore of my world, so it consumes a lot of time. DA allows me to make maps faster. Just download something that works for me. Thank you, DA. My player said they love the 3D maps. They're also liking the campaign. I'm thinking about creating a PDF module anybody can play through. Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool, Caillou. I'm really glad to hear it. Welcome back, by the way. Excuse me. One of those days. Hey, DJX, Axiom. Gosh, I never get your name right. DJX DM. DJ Axiom. I don't know. I'm gonna butcher it forever. I'm sorry. I want to put an emphasis on the DJ. Fine. That does make it a much easier name to remember. Put my comfy hat on. Hey, Marlon Machado, thank you for the sub on YouTube. Much appreciated. Let's see here. What else do we got? Man, we had a bunch of follows on Facebook earlier. Deza Sosa, Brian Hendricks, Federico Fontana, Roger Aralo. Thank you for the follows. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Welcome to the damn fam. So, now that we've kind of caught up on what we were doing in this build, and I've showed you this cool new mouse cursor feature. Mouse cursor feature. Say that 5 times fast. Mouse cursor feature, mouse cursor feature, mouse cursor feature, mouse cursor. It's tricky. It's a tongue. It twists your tongue a little bit. If you notice here, there was an access point where it's essentially an escape hatch, a sewer that we've added. So if the wizard has tribulation, someone's after him, he can potentially escape. I was going to add a hatch at a lower floor, and I never really got around to it. I was saving a space under the staircase for a hatch. You can stack items by hand. So items are kind of a tricky workaround for not being able to make multi-level in rooms at the moment. So you can always make your first level with the room tool, the AI room tool, right? And you can do round and diagonal, all sorts of weird shapes now. So this first floor could easily be done with this tool. But anything above that will be done by hand. I ultimately opted to make everything as objects because I wanted it all to be... I wanted it all to be pull apart and easy for me to snap it apart like I have here, as you can see. Objects, though, they have a few different behaviors. First off, we have thousands of structural objects. There are all the wall types in DA as freestanding walls, for instance. Every single wall type you would find in this wall tool is available as a freestanding object that can be rotated. So this gives you a lot of freedom to make things at different heights. And if you disable collisions, this little guy here, that not only allows you to put objects together to make like new objects, like these rocks, for instance, are merged together, it's several rocks. Normally, you'll get this red, UI. It's like, no, you can't do this, right? If you have collisions off, you can raise objects up and down, you can move them together. So that's kind of the premise I'm using here for the multi-floor, is I'm using objects and I'm stacking them on top of each other kind of very meticulously. So each floor is designed with purpose. All of the objects on this floor are stacked on this wooden floor at the base of it, right? So I can pull this floor out as a single piece. It saves me time, because who would want to pull that out as hundreds of pieces? That'd be a nightmare, right? Gonna just check something quick. Okay. Yeah, so essentially everything in this build is essentially built with a purpose. Hey, Harry Weatherford, welcome. Now, there are, under this same structural section of the object menu, round stuff. So there's round walls, round flooring, there's stone platforms, but a lot of these objects snap together like Lego and also snap to the grid. So you can, snap one in place, stack it right on top of it. These ones are kind of a poor example here. There's some really cool, like, neat structural things. These are great for making, like, city walls, like a fort wall or something, because they can stack up really high really quickly. I'm just holding shift When I hold shift, it automatically duplicates that object. Put a little bit of that freestanding wall banister on that at the top, and you got like a nice little barricade, right? We're on the 3rd floor, technically. I'm just kind of showing what I was doing here so everyone can follow. I'm going to make a couple changes, though. You know, Robert, we kind of looked into that. We even spoke directly with, I can't remember the name, Ripper, isn't it? Over at 3D Canvas. And unfortunately, just Dungeon Alchemist wasn't really designed with 3D export in mind. It never was really intended for that. It was intended for top-down exports, but building in 3D. You can build in 3D to get much more detail. You can take screenshots in 3D or videos in 3D. You can interact with your map in first person in 3D. So there are ways to interact and utilize the map space in 3D. You can take these screenshots and video and give them to your players as handouts, set them up as scenes. I've seen long rest scenes, I've seen flyovers for familiars, I've seen chase scenes, I've seen all sorts of really clever, fun ways to utilize this in these, you know, cinematic cameras and first-person camera modes that are available to you to better utilize these, 3D environments. I understand there are, some 3D supported things out there. So what our friend here, Robert at Facebook, is talking about 3D Canvas, which is a module for Foundry. So it is not even a stock feature in Foundry. It is a third-party module that requires a payment, a monthly payment, to secure access to. So at any point in time, if you stop paying for it, or if the developer loses interest, and I'm not saying Ripper will, it's just there could be no longer support for it. That's one major downside of us developing support for a product that isn't stock in Foundry. The other thing, say, Tailspire, a full 3D VTT, right? They don't even offer imports. It's an enclosed system. So even if we did make exports, it wouldn't import to their system. Now, you do have something like, what is that 3D virtual tabletop that a lot of people use, but it's kind of more of an augmented reality than a true 3D. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it. It's on Steam. Tabletop Simulator. Tabletop Simulator isn't a true 3D thing. It's more like augmented reality or virtual reality. So in all of these instances, none of these systems are like a true 3D, and Dungeon Alchemist isn't even a true 3D. It's essentially a combination of smoke and mirrors. Many of the assets you look at in Dungeon Alchemist aren't these intricate, detailed wood grain and facets and all of this blend, like lovely lumping. It is actually like a flat surface collider, and it's got a very, very nice wallpaper on top of it, what equates to that. So when you look at many assets in DA, they're essentially smoke and mirrors. Very simple shapes, squares, circles, triangles, that are, like I said, have a wallpaper on them. So like when you look at a home, you have a flat wall, but if you put a wallpaper on it, or if you painted it really detailed, it could look really 3D. And that's essentially what this is. So if you were to export Dungeon Alchemist in its default state right now, a lot of it would just be blank blob shapes of simple shapes with no detail, no effects, no color, no animation, and that wouldn't look well or translate well to any 3D program or 3D engine. So one of the main things is people want a 3D VTT export. Another thing is people want 3D print export, so it wouldn't work in that regard either. And then third is some people want engine export, so they can essentially make the base tier of a video game using Dungeon Alchemist, which would save them a tremendous amount of time, and then, incorporate that into, say, an engine like Unity and build a game there. Now, I don't mean to sound negative, and I answer this question a lot, so maybe I sound a little jaded. It's just ultimately to accommodate to this feature, a 3D export, we would have to gut DA and redesign it from the ground up. Every single asset, a lot of the infrastructure in the development, and we would do this to essentially accommodate to what is essentially a niche feature at this time. It's not fully adopted or developed, and it's mostly in a beta state or kind of a... And I'm not trying to sound negative in any way here. I want to see it thrive. I would love to have 3D exports, and I just think Dungeon Alchemist isn't the tool for that at this time. There may be another map maker at some point that can offer that. You know, I've seen promises of ones that have like Kickstarters and stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, it probably will never be as detailed looking as like Dungeon Alchemist is. It'll probably be really kind of limited, stripped down stuff if it's available for 3D printing or 3D export, because the file sizes start getting astronomical if it is a full detailed kind of thing. Like when you look at a video game, a lot of video games, they use what's called flashlight rendering. Imagine you're looking in a dark room with a flashlight shined at the wall. You really only see what the light shows you. Same with a video game. You render a real environment. Most of it, you really only render what your character sees at any given point of a much larger environment to save processing power, to save on RAM, etc. DA, on the other hand, you see all of this in real time. Whatever's on screen is rendered. Does that make sense? That's the flashlight. So the further you're zoomed out, you have everything on the screen is rendered. That's part of the reason as you zoom out, your performance decreases. If you're in a tighter scope of the map, that same principle applies. Let's see here. So, DM, there is weather within DA like snow, and on the workshop there is rain you can download that works pretty well, actually, from Asmodeus. Let's get the rain V2. You can't really tell what's there. So we do plan to add weather effects with time, but for right now, if you want weather, just download something like this from the workshop that's rain. We can size it up to the entire map, and you notice it's just raining over the entire space. When you export, it'll look like that in top-down. With time, we'll probably add, lightning, clouds, rain, things like that. So, now moving on from that, Angel on YouTube asks, Caillou, that is animated. I literally just showed you animated rain. How could you say that's not animated when you see it right with your own eyes? Okay, Angel over at YouTube says, is there a way to see interiors without the ambient light? Our next update will address that. So, a lot of times we get people, they're like, why isn't this doing this thing? Or what? It seems like such an obvious thing that this would be included in Dungeon Alchemist by this point. Remember, Dungeon Alchemist is in early access, and we developed our development is kind of a set of tiers, layers, if you will. So we are releasing Dungeon Alchemist in a set of stages, foundational layers, that each layer makes Dungeon Alchemist a much more fleshed out and fuller product. Our last update, Magic, which released 12 days ago, so less than 2 weeks ago, we had a major update, included 600 plus new objects, 2 new room types, but also tons of quality of life improvements for shaping rooms to make them round, diagonal, be able to rotate rooms, raise rooms up and down. And that's, of course, with the AI draw room tool, not with the, by hand kind of object building like we're doing here. So with that in mind, essentially, we plan to, in stages, fix various aspects or fine-tune aspects of DA and make it better. One of the things people complain about a lot is shadows indoor, saying that their players, there's no way they can immerse themselves in this, which is funny. I've actually never heard a player complain about it. It's only DMs. And DMs are a little bit detail-oriented. We're kind of cursed in that regard, but that's part of the reason we're DMs, right? We decided to be DMs because we love the details, all the fine details, the minutia. So a lot of times the players will just never notice those things or care about it, but I've had DMs tell me that it is just absolutely immersion breaking. It ruins the app entirely. They can't use it anymore. And that's fine. That's their prerogative. With this in mind, though, the next update should address that entirely, as well as multi-level and roofing. I encourage you all to check out our Upvoty. It is the place where we host our suggestion board, but also our roadmap. The roadmap is incredibly useful tool to follow because you can see what we plan to develop and what's coming up next and what has been developed. So this is the roadmap, dungeonalchemist.com, dungeonalchemist.upvoty.com. Seisu is dropping links in a few places. Thank you, Seisu, for doing that. But ultimately, you see here it says coming up next. This means for sure the devs are focusing on this and plan to release this in the next update. Planned means they want to do this, and they will eventually incorporate it into an update at some point, okay? So if you look at coming up next, multi-level support with roof, drag and rotate room. Right now we can drag and rotate the floor plan, but not the room afterwards. So it will be very cool to drag and rotate the room after the fact. Separate ambient indoor lighting, no shadows inside buildings. Okay, so that's a huge thing. The stretch goal this will be is the fun with objects stretch goal. So every major update is a stretch goal delivered from our Kickstarter. Our Kickstarter had a series of stretch goals, and there's only 5 left. So fun with objects, and then no particular order after fun with objects. I'm just going to ramble them off. So that doesn't mean when they'll be delivered. There is tricks and traps, water worlds, high seas, and instant dungeons. So fun with objects, tricks and traps, water worlds, high seas, instant dungeons. The devs have pretty much all but confirmed that high seas and instant dungeons will be the last 2 because they're going to be like capstones of the project. High seas is mostly like oceans, shipbuilding, airships. There's going to be a whole shipyard program within DA to help you build ships and import them into DA and share them on the workshop. Gold School Games followed. Thank you so much for the follow on TikTok. This is a cool program. Thank you. My name is Mac. I'm actually the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. If you have any questions, let me know. So, we don't actually pre-design maps to offer them because, you know, those are copyrighted material. But that being said, we do offer Steam Workshop integration where our community members share maps. So there is 8,798 maps. And I'll just tell you right now, if I type in COS, there is tons of Curse of Strahd content. And that's just the abbreviation, okay? If I type Strahd, probably find other stuff. So users in our community have shared many maps from the already, well-known modules, well-loved modules. So essentially, as you can see here, it is definitely, there's quite a bit available that you can grab from. You can just use them as like a base layer, inspiration, or you can just grab it and use it right away. Here's Gates of Barovia. I believe there was, Curse of Strahd, Yesterhill. There's several Yesterhills. So if you need a map, you can find one right away, most likely, or use one as inspiration or a foundation. You can download it and make changes that fit your table and your story better if you've made some subtle homebrew adjustments. Let's see here. But, I mean, there is essentially a lot of major content that users share. These are just shared for personal use. Okay, are there any plans? Let's see here. Plans to allow tokens at other levels. So you can raise the token up, but I know what you mean, how it just sinks immediately, it just falls, right? When you go into first person. Is that what you're talking about, my friend? One moment. EA is kind of frozen. Might crash. Oh no! Yep, the token immediately falls. One thing that I might suggest to you is the cinematic camera. To fly around at that perspective allows you to fly without falling, you know? That's one option at your disposal. But yeah, I understand you want a token to fly. That's a great suggestion for the Fun with Objects update. Right now, we're pulling our community across all our major social platforms. Discord, well, pretty much any platform with text-based information. So, sorry, TikTok at the moment. But yeah, ultimately on our Discord, our Twitter, our Facebook, all that stuff, there's a post where you can share feedback about what you think you might expect in our next update. And I think that's a great option. The ability to have flying tokens, so you can have flying monsters or mobs, etc. I also would love to see light added to tokens. Meaning, just how you can use like all the light sources in DA, and you can adjust them with brightness and add filters, turn them on and off. I want light added to the token, so when you're walking around with the token in first person, it has a permanent affixed light source, like they're carrying a torch, or have light or dancing lights, etc. That would be really cool. See, things like that are suggestions our community have given, and I think are really powerful suggestions. They are on our upvote, but also getting them in this poll is a great way to see if it might be in the next update, because the devs look really closely at the poll when they're, you know, adding content. A lot of stuff from our Magic poll made it into the Magic update. Moving on, what is Instant Dungeons? The Instant Dungeon update is essentially a one-click dungeon AI for Dungeon Alchemists. So once we have developed all the room AI, objects, and all the various aspects of the environmental AI, which, by the way, our AI is developed entirely in-house. There is no public data scraped, no maps, no art, no assets. None of that was pulled from the internet to train our AI. It's trained entirely in-house, and all of the assets used in our AI are made entirely in-house by a team of talented artists. By the way, we're a small indie team, not some mega corporation. So we're kind of proud of the ethical, above-board approach we took to our AI, and we feel using AI to make maps to save time in your tabletop campaign is probably one of the best ways to use it. It's meant to save you time and help you, not, steal work from you. So that's what we've not done, is steal from you and given you a tool that's very powerful and saves you time. Moving on, Instant Dungeons will essentially allow you to generate an entire dungeon in one click. So you set a bunch of settings, click generate, good to go. Hey, Saywell, I appreciate that. That's awesome. By the way, we do have a demo right now. If you're interested in Dungeon Alchemist, you can try out the demo, see if it runs on your computer, how well it runs, and kind of just check out a kind of basic version of it. And ultimately, if you want to upgrade or get the full version, we're 20% off right now on Steam, so that is the best time to get it. Like, the absolute best deal you can get is right now. So, and that goes for everyone here. Please, 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 if you have an interest in Dungeon Alchemist and you're checking it out right now and you're watching the stream, seeing what we're doing, seeing how things work, definitely go check out the demo, see how it runs on your computer, play around with it, and that you can use that as kind of a basis to decide if you want to get it. Okay, so I got on the workshop earlier, got super distracted with questions, which part of the stream is AMA format. I just answer questions the whole time. Man, that floor, I wish we had a trap door that wasn't 32 megabytes. Let me see. Trap door. Hatch. Okay. Nope. Sci-fi hatch. I don't want a sci-fi. Guess we'll do this one. It's hard to say at this point what all Instant Dungeon will entail, especially because it's so far out. All I can speculate is that it will allow you to essentially fine-tune the settings of the culmination of all of Dungeon Alchemist's builds. All the objects, all of the biomes, all of the room types, all of that stuff, and will allow you to generate a dungeon around all of that finality, if you will. So that's part of the reason it's one of the final updates, is they want to make sure it's got as much under the hood as possible. All the objects, all the quality of life improvements, all of the, environmental biomes, all the rune types. So it'll generate that instantly. Now, what will entail the amount of detail? Will it be castles, only dungeons? I don't know. It implies dungeons for the time being, but given our devs like grandiose nature to kind of under promise and over deliver, it could very well happen. Like, I don't want to promise that, but the devs like to deliver on quality of life features that were never ever promised in our Kickstarter promises, and they do it time and time again. So I could see that happening. I like that hatch right there. That is cool. Okay. By the way, Steam, I noticed we got a few people watching, and I don't want to call you out. If you are curious about Dungeon Alchemist and have any questions, I know Steam doesn't have chat open by default. You can click the show chat icon just below the video, and that'll allow you to ask questions if you're curious. And I'm here for you. Think of the stream as an AMA format. So if you have any questions related to Dungeon Alchemist, feel free to ask away, and I will do my best to guide you. That. Playing around with this hatch and this new floor piece I put in. Hatch there. I want it hanging out just the littlest bit so you can kind of see it under the stair from top down. Oof. Jumped up. Something like that. Did I rotate it so you can see the hatch handle? Something like that. That looks good. See if it's in top down. Nope, you don't see it at all. You know, high seas is kind of vague. I would imagine astral seas are on the market there, but it remains to be seen at this point. For the interim, though, what if you're interested in things like that, what I would recommend is you can very easily, build in the green screen biome, which the point of the green screen biome is to superimpose a different backdrop or edit out the backdrop. I was kind of playing with this last night, and I superimposed an astral sea in behind like a ship I was building. I'm trying to make a video to demonstrate it that'll be up on our YouTube soon, so hopefully it'll be easier to kind of see how to do that for yourself. So ultimately, I apologize that I don't have more information, but a green screen or a chroma key background is designed to allow you to either quickly remove the background in post, like an image or video editor, or superimpose the background in an editor or like a production tool. The size of a map, Learden, is directly proportionate to your computer specs. So if you have a very powerful computer, like let's say you have, a brand new top of the line machine, 4090, 256 gigabytes of RAM, like it can make maps that are like ridiculous sizes. I've seen 250 by 250 square maps that are like overworld size maps. Now, I personally, like my machine is, decent and not top of the line, and I could build up to like 100 by 100 without really struggling. People in our community vary from about 40 by 40 to 60 by 60. If you have an older machine that's kind of dated, or if you have kind of a slower, less powerful machine that is even a newer machine that's not that powerful, it may only do moderate size maps, maybe 20 by 20 or less. So Franco asks on YouTube about any news about the Fog of War feature. If I were you, I would do Fog of War in a virtual tabletop, because it's going to be a long while before there's Fog of War in DA, as we plan to incorporate VTT Lite features most likely after we leave early access. So that means after we deliver on all of our stretch goals. There's 5 stretch goals left. Each stretch goal is like 4 to 7 month average. So, I mean, do some math, it could take a while. Ultimately, I would love for us to be able to have the VTT Lite feature sooner than later, but I think they're just not a top priority because the priority is the promises from our Kickstarter, and that is VTT features are definitely feature creep things that we never really intended to do, but there's been such a high demand for it. We hope to, go with that. Cheyenne on TikTok says, I saw an ad for this the other day. It looks really cool. Well, I appreciate that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I noticed you asked a question. How good is it creating maps from references? Pretty good. In fact, you can use our tracing layer to incorporate a map that you have and then trace it right in. So one thing I actually did is I partnered with Don John. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Don John Map Generator. So Don John is a really simple website where you can generate fantasy names, loot, worlds, dungeons, okay? Now, Don John essentially allowed us to kind of work with them and allowed you to get more options in your builds for tracing. So you can generate a dungeon using the Don John map generator, which I'm going to just quickly randomly generate. Let's do a random one. I'm trying to get more shape in it, you know what I mean? Oh, let's do polymorph rooms. There. Construct dungeon. So, like, this is a massive dungeon, right? But when you generate a dungeon in Don John, it now tells you the size of the dungeon right here in squares, 115 by 103. It also says it in the name of the map when you export it. So I actually have some Don John maps that I've already kind of made in the past, but like here is, this one's 39 by 51, right? I'm going to just hurry and save. And we'll go to new map, and I'm going to make it a perfect match. 39 by 51. And for this instance, I'm going to do cave, because I like a dungeon in like rock underground, and I do solid rock so I can carve into it. And I'm going to do no rotation. DA is directly compatible with several virtual tabletops, including Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, Above VTT, and numerous virtual tabletops that use the UVTT format, or the Universal VTT format. So back into the tracing layer, remember I said 39 by 51? It was partially because of that map I was looking at was 39 by 51. Forgive me for using a map I had on tap, but it does save a lot of time if I do this. So 39 by 51, perfect overlay. Look at this. I'm going to turn on the grid. Look how perfectly aligned it is to our grid. The rooms are a near match. Now I can go in, let's say the crypt tool is great for this. I'm going to do a great hall here. We're going to drag out a room, generate it. It carves right into the rock. Notice the rock is a little wide. You know what? I just realized I didn't generate this with walls. Let's generate it with walls, but no windows. We're going to have floors and doors, because you don't need windows in an underground room, right? So now we generated it with walls. I'm going to make a few adjacent spaces. We're going to do a dungeon cell. Now let's do some more hallway here. Just watch this for a moment. Gotta get used to that. You can drag now. Like such a new feature that I always forget. So all of this is connected as one piece. That means it'll be one hall. I'm going to show you a trick really quick in just a moment. We're going to add another. Yeah. So I've generated all this space. The tracing layer is kind of obnoxious, but it definitely shows you really well what's there. I'm going to come in and grab the Raise Cave Area tool. make it strong. I'm just going to go right back over these cave areas that carved out, and it makes the walls nice and tight and seamed with the crypt walls. You can do this when you're done, which is ideal because then you only have to do it once. But look at that. That's a very clean overlay. So I imported this donjon map, and in just a few minutes, I can start tracing it out. And I mean, it saves you tons of time in DA. I made this dungeon here from a donjon map. I generated it and created it in under 30 minutes. Each room is unique, has different things going on in them. This one here, I actually deleted the room. That's a cool trick. I'll show you that in a minute. Another one, I put a pit with jumping stuff. So there's like a bottomless pit and jumping ledges. Experimentation rooms, treasure rooms. How'd I do the circle? You want a circle room? Let's see if this one can. It's not equal. Ooh, we'll make it 8 by 8. Then hopefully. So when you do circle rooms in DA, it has to be like an exact reduction. So in this case, a 7 by 7 won't work because it has to be divided by an equal amount of squares. So I'm going to try a 6 by 6. And as this is our first iteration of round rooms, it'll only get better. But I'm going to just drag that in there. So it'll be a little bit smaller. See, it's probably a closer match to that. But as you can see, with time, it'll get better. And you could just drop that there and then have the walls go to that. So it's quite possible to do a round room adjacent. Yeah, it's close enough. And remember, you as the DM, at the end of the day, can make the calls that things don't need to be an absolute match. So if the map maker you're using isn't 100% matching the source material for whatever reason or not, whether the source material is illogical or you may not have an exact match in the building, tool you're using, you can make the final call and be like, you know what, this stairway doesn't have to be mirrored this direction. It can be going this direction. But yeah, you can now do round rooms as of the 12th. Hey, Remy! Turn off that grid. Go back into the tracing layer here. I'm going to just click on the tracing layer and make it more transparent so it's less, obnoxious, right? And go back in. And now you can see kind of the areas I've carved out with the tracing lightly over it. One thing I really love to do is go into a room and delete it after I've made it, right? So this just leaves like a flat rock floor with doorways in it. It's just like a carved out rock space. So there's several ways to approach this. But yeah, circular rooms, you can do all sorts of weird shapes. Pentagons might be a little hard. So, but you can make like an octagon. You can also, what I would probably do is probably make it a similar shape and then just try and match it. But anyway, so donjon and our dimensions match rather neatly. So if you match the size of the map perfectly, it'll be a 1-to-1. But donjon says his hallways aren't 5 by 5. These squares aren't 5 by 5. They're 10 by 10. So if you double it in DA, it actually is a better, closer representation. So keep that in mind. And donjon maps are huge. Even when they're tiny, they're massive. So just keep that in mind. So in this case, you would double it, which was, 39 by 51. So what? 102 by 68, right? No, 78. Our room drawing will only get better with time, with each iteration. Remember, this is the first one that we incorporated. How big is this? Try a 6. So it is possible to make like a hexagon, but it needs to be an even reduction. Does that make sense? Keeps jumping around and resizing. It's weird. This whole time we've been doing it, it hasn't. But if you notice that happening, please report it through the feedback tool here. There's a report bug option. Go into the map it's doing it on. Give us a really detailed information around it. It'll send us the map so we can take a look at it. Yeah, you can do it with any image, but remember, it's going to be trickier depending on the source image. Like, let's say you just found an image online. If it's kind of grainy or whatever, or it's not an exact replica of the map, it might be harder to trace, so you might have to stretch it out a little bit to get it to match. It's more for reference than anything, you know. Getting exact matches would be something with Donjon, but if you got like an image from, say, let's say you downloaded a map that's a source map from like a module from a D&D module. It's ideal to use a little bit of math to your benefit. So let's say the map's resolution is like 6,000 by 3,200 resolution, right? Each square in DA is 100 by 100. So if you do a little bit of math, right? So I said 6,000 by 3,200. Divide that by 100. That would be 60 by 32, right? So that's a really simple reduction option. The problem is the grids, if they're drawn into a map, don't always match with our grid, and it can give you a headache. So sometimes you may just want to defer to their grid and try and get it as close as you can. It's definitely easier to match like tracing caves because you have more freehand options. Yeah, you can change the translucency in a trace layer. If you click on the trace layer, there's this little aspect of it right here. You can make it incredibly very, 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 like no opacity at all, or, very translucent. DM, unfortunately, I'm not looking at community maps on Mapmaker Monday. So we only look at community maps on either office hours during Wednesday or the every other week DAM stream. So you can ask me to take a look on those days. So Saturday, this upcoming Saturday or this upcoming Wednesday, either one, I'll take a look. In a cave, you could definitely manually draw the rooms. Like, you have cave drawing tools that are... You could get in to do whatever you want. I mean, really down to detail if you wanted to. To, kind of get an outline. This is just a quick trace. It's not perfect. But you could get it pretty neat if you wanted to. You know what I mean? This is awful, but yeah, you get the idea. So I could just use the manual carving tools if I had to. The room carving tools are getting better and better and better. Obviously, it's straight square options, but you can go in and now do round edges. You can do flat edges. You can combine them. You can do convex and concave edges. So with time, this will evolve and get better. By the way, can I just ask a small favor of everyone watching the stream? If you are enjoying the stream and you're on a platform where you can share or like the stream or follow the stream, please do me a favor and, like, share, follow if you are enjoying it. That way, not only can other people enjoy it and find it, but more people, can learn from this and benefit from it. And if you're following the stream, you can find it later. So if you feel like you're learning something during the stream today, definitely drop a follow so you can learn more in the future. Cheyenne, thank you for the like. Much appreciated there. I'm on your FYP. That's awesome, Remy. Okay, let's get back to my map. I mean, caves can be a mixed bag, especially if it's a dungeon. You can freehand carve, or you can use the tools we offer. So you can do normal rooms in caves, or you can even do rooms without walls that are just adhere to the organic nature of the cave. And you can use cave carving tools, terrain carving tools to manipulate and adjust the terrain by hand. So you have a lot of options. The closest thing to allow you to do freehand walls would be essentially the freestanding walls located under the object's structural section. The walls in here can be rotated. They can be placed at any height, especially if you have like collisions off. You can put them on top of other walls, so people use them to do like second floors. Notice how it's sliding up the side. That tracing layer is kind of making it hard to tell what's going on. Delete it. But let's go back to my map. And I do not mind questions in the least, so keep them coming. I'm just going to try and focus on my map a little bit as I answer them. So we added the hatch to the base floor, which I really like. I guess I could put it like under a barrel instead, so it's like hidden. But for now, I kind of like that. I think that's neat. Let's put these floors back on, and then we'll get back up to the bedroom, see if there's any finish. So one thing I did when I built this, I built it with purpose. Everything on this snaps. So I built it in a snapping point, so it would be very easy to realign the other floors when I come back. So I never move them off of their verticality point, and I just snap them into place, which, if you're holding shift when collisions are disabled, snapping is re-enabled. Yes, so I'm using a couple custom assets that I located on the Steam Workshop, which anyone in our community can do. That's the cool thing about this build, is it's showing you how to build multi-level, but also showing you how to incorporate aspects of the community shared assets into your maps. So if you go to the Browse Asset section of Dungeon Alchemist and hit Browse Collections, one of our community members, Swedish Cook, actually put together a collection of assets that he created himself. These are all circular themed assets that work very well together and with the stock circular assets in DA. So the walls on this are stock DA assets. I went to Objects, Structural, Round Constructions. You see these walls? That's the exact wall there. But the flooring in the second and third floor and the stairs are part of that pack. The floor on the bottom is actually stock, part of this as well. It's at the top. It's one of these. So, essentially using the option to build by hand, which I prefer. Like, I love the AI, but I only use it kind of as a foundation. And then I build my maps by hand because I like the control and the intricate detail it offers. That's my personal preference. You can use the AI to generate a map in like 2 minutes and be done with it. But if you want this level of detail in multi-level, you'll definitely have to dive in, roll up your sleeves a little bit, and get your hands dirty. So, let's see here. Other questions. Can the trace adjust to 10-foot squares? If you want it to 10-foot squares, just double the map size. So our map square is kind of matched to 5-foot squares by default. But if you just double the map size, then the tracing from Donjon is a 10-foot match. So it's an easier setup there. Let's see here. Dyro asks, I had a question, but can't remember if I asked it. Will there be cloud save for Steam profiles? Autosave is big. You do have Steam Workshop support, so you could just upload a map to the workshop and keep it private or to friends or just yourself. And then you could access it between your Steam, your two different computers. That's one option. But yeah, I do think it would be nice to incorporate Steam with the cloud at some point. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's anything on the menu for that at this time. I definitely would recommend checking our upvote to see if there's something for that. If there's not, definitely dive into it, create one. Joe Jackson, this is an application that's available on Steam, and it's actually on sale right now. It's 20% off for a limited time, and it's a one-time purchase. You get a lifetime license. You don't need to be online Steam to use it. You can, in fact, uninstall Steam after. But the benefit of Steam support is you get all the updates that we offer for free and, through the Steam ecosystem automatically. So we just had a major update on the 12th with that, which added tons of new features, for instance. So if you weren't using Steam, you wouldn't get that benefit. Now, we also incorporate several other features. You can share maps or download maps from our Steam Workshop repository of almost 9,000 maps. So just shy of 8,800 maps that have been shared by our community. In addition to that is the asset collection, which hasn't been available quite as long, but you can share 3D models or download 3D models from the workshop. So this expands the functionality, giving you more options of assets that we don't offer yet, and even gives you more aesthetics that we don't offer. Primarily, Dungeon Alchemist works well for fantasy, can lean into like steampunk and Western pretty well, but people are doing, modern assets, Fallout assets, sci-fi assets. There's hundreds of thousands of assets that fit into that aesthetic now, and you can download them and essentially make maps in other aesthetics with Dungeon Alchemist as the tool. This is expanding daily. There are tokens on the Asset Workshop, so you can download asset tokens from here and use them in your campaigns. There are characters, monsters. These are all shared by community members, by the way. Some are handcrafted. Others are found on third-party websites and then shared on here with proper Creative Commons accreditation. So there's a lot of 3D models on the internet that they're cool with you sharing them as long as you're not reselling them and you're properly crediting them with the proper attribution. So that's what a lot of users will do. They'll share the asset and then just credit the original creator. Some creators make the assets from scratch and then share them. So this is a great way to expand the resource options you have within DA in a pinch. So if there is an asset you're looking for that's not in DA, you can add it. And that's how I added these other floors. There are 40k assets in there. Yep. Joe Jackson from TikTok, thank you for the follow. Much appreciated. So I feel the bedroom's close to done, and I haven't spent much time building. I wanted to kind of decorate these shelves here. I was thinking of this being like, just the wizard's like little, I don't know, like a curio or a cabinet that he keeps his like knickknacks in. Things like that. So here is like a clothing, space, and some kind of cool. Maybe this thing here is called the Spirit Communicator, and then there's a treasure chest. I was thinking of putting another chest with it. We've got a bathtub and a bed, and then kind of just like a personal effects space. But yeah, without Steam, you don't have access to the workshop. So if you're offline or if you don't have the Steam app, it's kind of hard to access these features. That being said, you can still import assets into DA and use them and keep them locally. So they're only in your local version of DA, so no one else can use them but you. So let's say you've created tons of assets by hand, or have a collection of assets from like a Humble Bundle or a Patreon that you support, and you can just import them and keep them local so they're not shared on the workshop, but you can still use them in your builds. And Dungeon Alchemist supports STL, FBX, and GLB/GLTF files. So you can do, simple, no color, gray, flat gray STLs, which we actually have a cool color. So they'll come out like this shell here by default. Let's say you import a token. have that flat gray like you haven't painted it yet, like a mini. But you can change the color with these color filters. So these could be like statuses, or you can quickly differentiate and just give it a quick, paint job. Or you can incorporate full color tokens. So this is the exact same model, but with like a sandstone paint on it. So STL, FBX, and GLTF. We also support animated models and models with lighting on them. So if a model is animated, that animation is incorporated into DA. So, sorry, excuse me for coughing right in the mic there. There is this animated, there's some animated tokens that are on the workshop here. Let's try this Insect of Yikes. Drop it in. Notice it is animated already, and you can just pause it. If there's an animation, it'll detect it, and you can pause that animation. It'll just go to its default state. Depending on how many animations are tied to the asset, if it has multiple states, for instance, there was one that was like a kobold. I swear I've seen it on here before. Huh, it must be gone. Anyway. Let's try this warrior one. I'm hoping to find one with multiple states. Ah, this one doesn't. But as you can see, it's animated here, which allows you to take advantage of that. But if it has multiple states, it'll show like a fast forward button, like a double play button, and each time you press it, it shifts between the different animations. So essentially, you can incorporate animated assets or tokens into your builds. This really expands your functionality quite a bit. So like a trap, for instance, that's animated, it's a great way to incorporate it into your map, right? Like a simple spike trap. Oh, same. I have 3 3D printers behind me. I have 2 FDM printers and a resin printer. And I have thousands of STL models that I've just stored in a repository. And I've made tons of STLs myself as well. Mostly practical prints. So being able to disable that animation is great. Another great thing about animations is, especially if there's a button on them when you're in first person, you'll print it eventually. I know that feeling. Are we the same person? Get out of my head! Wow, we had over 1,000 likes today on TikTok. Can I just say thank you, TikTok, for all the likes, all the loves? Farrell and Pathfinder, by the way, thank you for the follow. In the last 5 minutes, you dropped a subscribe on YouTube. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. And thank you for the praise. So, being able to copy identical or at least similar rooms, we hope to at some point address that. Both object groupings and rooms. At some point. It's a ways out though, so until then. The play button for this is missing, so I can't trigger it. Interesting. I gotta report that bug. Okay, typically when there's like a interactive setup in a map, like a door, for instance, you can open and close it, play and pause buttons, you can trigger, you can turn off and on torches in first person. But the cool thing about this is if you record, while you do that, it will not show the UI that you're showing. So you can interact with it, but it doesn't show the UI in the recording, which is great, if you ask me. But a play button typically is activated or can be activated. For some reason, it's not visible. That is a bug. Most definitely a bug. Because I know other assets, like stock ones that are animated, for instance, like this Vice is a great example. You can go up to it and trigger it. Yeah, I've played on tables where the DM follows along in first person and streams it over Discord. So we'd be in like top down in Roll20 or Foundry, and the DM streaming a first person view, following us very closely to where we go. And if we need to, we'll just be like, hey, can you, the token will be in this room for an example. Can you take a closer look at that cabinet over there? I'd like to investigate it. And they'll be like, sure, do an investigation check. And then they already have like a loot table. And, if they're like, whatever, they'll open it. And they have predetermined loot that's there. But you'll just see all this stuff. And it's like, oh, cool, there's all these things inside. And they're like, yeah, and you actually notice a lockbox. And, oh, can I pick the lock or check for traps or whatever? You know what I mean? It's kind of neat to interact with it at that level. First-person streaming's great, and I'm hoping at some point we have a hide UI mode and more enhanced ability for the video. One DM I played with would carefully select all the items inside and be like, whatever's in here is stuff you can take. So wait, the bedroll in there we can have? Yeah, you can have the bedroll. Oh my gosh, really? Cool. So, one thing I did with this map when I made it is I wanted it to be navigable in first person. Like, I wanted to be able to walk around all this space and be able to interact with it and use it. So that's part of the design, was making sure the token felt natural in this space and was able to go up and down all the staircases, in and out. Oh, got stuck there, so I'm not quite short enough. Kind of hit the overhang there. We'll have to fix that. Make the token just a little bit shorter. But overall, it's pretty navigable in first person, which I wanted to be able to walk through and take like screenshots or video and share that. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not missing any questions across various platforms here. Let's see here. Oh, that's really cool, Dyro. That's really interactive and fun. Hey, Ice, how are you? I've missed you. What you been up to? Honestly, it's like, I understand the reason people want 3D exports for that reason, is because they want to play in the level of detail they've made for their players. There's no reason you can't just stream this to them over Discord, right? At the same time. Just have it on the side. But, keep in mind, it's optional. You don't have to do it. One DM, I loved this feedback I got from a DM. They have a player with a familiar. DMs in chat, raise of hands. How many of you have a player with a familiar that flies? And they love to use this familiar for recon. Do any of you have a player like that? They'll either look through the familiar's eyes, or they'll, fly over areas a lot of times to get recon. So this particular DM told me their player, there was a wizard, and they have I think it was an owl. And they always flew the owl over areas to get recon whenever they were going somewhere. Right? So flying with a broom, the player doing it themselves. So, and the thing is I do think that some DMs get a little defensive when they're like, oh, yep, they shot it down. I don't think every guard would shoot down every bird they see. That seems impractical. Maybe a hunter might, or someone like that's starving. And if it's suspicious in what it's doing, like it's definitely flying around and like scoping stuff out for a long time, possibly. But a bird flying in, cresting on a building isn't suspicious at all, in my opinion. That's like pretty normal nature behavior. But moving on, I digress. This DM Every map in advance, they'd prep with the cinematic camera like this. Now, forget the mouse green dot there, because that's not going to be normally there. In fact, I'll just hide that for immersive purposes temporarily. They would get in, and they would get into or the cinematic like this, and they would record while flying over every map, just like this. So any map where they could fly, they would do this. And they would give that to the player whenever they asked for a flyover, and they would have it play in 2 times speed, so it'd be a little bit faster movement. And now you can actually, the camera can go faster with like a shift, but they would essentially give them a clip, and they could watch it a couple of times and get an idea of what's going on. I just thought that was the coolest, most interactive way to interact, like share this information with their players, right? You could do that if they fly over it themselves, and if they have a small familiar, get down on this level and scurry around for them. Have some fun with it. You can really record some neat content with this. Let's see here. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry, I just got to respond to my boss real quick. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Back to the build. I mean, yeah, I guess if the bird doesn't fit in the geographical biome, but I think that's kind of also nitpicky. I don't think, maybe, yet again, the average hunter might know that bird doesn't fit in, right? Like a penguin would definitely stand out in certain biomes, but I don't know that the average guard would pay attention to those things. I always put myself in the perspective of that NPC. You know what I mean? I think most people are just kind of in their groove. But maybe if they're a vigilant guard, they might be hyper vigilant and notice everything flying over. They could also have express permission to watch for certain birds if, there's a paranoid mage they're guarding. But I do think by default, just the average town guard probably wouldn't. Also, smaller familiars like spiders and rats and stuff, that's very common. It would be everywhere. Okay, so with this room, let's see, what else can we put here? Some knickknacks. Knick-knack, paddywhack. Kind of wanted to put some other magic items, but smaller, make them small. I'm gonna just shrink this down. Tuck it in here. These are just personal details, really. I mean, it's just fun little things to add to the map. Let's see here. One neat thing about this asset, if you click on it, you can actually change the color of these, like, bands. Right? Kind of fun. Have some fun with it. Right? Yeah, see, it's like maybe a birder would be the enthusiast that would know this stuff, right? But I'd have a hard time believing that just like the average guard who probably doesn't have an impressive education in this like environment is gonna know every bird unless they spent like a prolific amount of time in their youth, like as a hunter or like a tracker, right? Or are an expert on like like an aviary expert. Hey, Panketeer, how you doing? Welcome back. What you been up to, my friend? What should I put on this table? So the neat thing about this table is it shrinks down into like an amulet, right? And I'm going to put items on it that are like magical cool items that are stored inside of it. So what would a wizard keep in this table so he always has it with him? I was thinking like a little alchemy station so he can brew potions on the fly. Right? Seisu's, seems way more logical. Just a hungry guard just shooting the nearest bird instead of him actually guarding from the bird. Does that make sense? I love this thread of discussion, by the way. Let's hear it, DMs. Are you the type of DM that essentially if your players are trying to be, they're like trying to get recon using a familiar, you are the type of DM that you'll immediately shoot that familiar out of the sky like you have some kind of like amazing aerial barrier preventing anything from flying in that space? Or are you going to essentially kind of allow them to kind of push the limits of your guards and like your security before you attack this familiar or whatever it may be? Or do you just kind of let it roam freely, depending on the situation, and let the rolls decide? I go with I go column C personally. I let the rolls decide. I used to play with a DM years ago that anytime we would strategize in front of them, they would essentially, it was like the NPCs on the battlefield were listening to us in a huddle strategizing before the battle and knew everything we were going to do and countered it immediately. It made it no fun. It was DM versus player, and that's not what it should be. And so essentially, this person was so competitive we stopped playing with them. Oh my gosh, just thinking about that. Like if we ended up like saying that you either need to step out when we're planning or we can't play together, and they wouldn't recede that, so we essentially couldn't make plans in front of them. So it's like their NPCs were adapting to things on the battlefield that they never even saw or heard, So it's like anytime we'd get a new skill, it was a completely negated the next fight. Is this a meow hat? No, this is actually a Magikarp hat, Sandra. But I appreciate it. It's close. Close. It's still a Pokemon, right? This is, yeah. I got this at a convention a few years ago. I saw a booth with a bunch of these hats, and I just went wild and bought like 4 of them. So I have a Magikarp hat. I have a Gengar hat, an Oshawott hat, and a Bulbasaur hat. Now, depending on where they're going into, how high security it is, yes, there might be security that's so intense that even the most minor familiar would get just absolutely obliterated. But I just don't think that every place should be that. You know, like, oh, Lich's Lair probably has that kind of security. Mega Fortress probably has that kind of security. Just trade post or minor small town with like guards and or you know, I don't know. I definitely am kind of I let the players unfold more than I try to box them in. You know what I mean? That's my play style. Okay, let's put some items on this. I want to put something interesting. Let's decorate this table in radio. This is Mac FM coming at you from the top of the hour. Oh no, the middle of the hour with some absolutely Mac-tastic decorations. I'm gonna want to just make like a little potion station. Now we have so many potion choices, it's like easy to get paralysis. Yeah, that Mancy. That mortar and pestle. I totally got tongue-tied there. Looks really nice. That to the side, and then we need some because spice melange just kind of looks like an experiment. It's kind of neat. They also have the painting tools. Some of these pigments with the mortar and pestle, so that doubles. That's a twofer. Let's do that. It's actually really smart. And I can put this under that, and it looks like he's checking it out. And you can even change the color of it. You have a lot of choices. You bit the bullet and picked up DA over the weekend. I'm enjoying it so far. Out of all the map makers I've used, this is the smoothest when it comes to decorating and painting. That's so nice to hear, Alex. I appreciate the kind words. First off, welcome to our community. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. You've wandered in to the right stream. If you have any questions, concerns, feedback, need guidance or assistance, please don't hesitate to ask, and myself or any of our amazing moderators or community members will try and assist you. In addition to that, I just want to say thank you for supporting us. Really do appreciate it. As we're a small indie company, every little bit helps. So thank you so much. Oh yeah, Seisu just dropped a link. I highly recommend checking out our Discord. The best place to be in between streams is our Discord. You get to meet community members. You can share maps. You can share assets. You can check out other people's maps and assets. You can get support, ask questions, chat with other GMs, and share stat blocks or story plans so you can bounce ideas off people. It's a really great place to be. Cheyenne, should I go grab the Bulbasaur hat real quick? Should I go grab it? Let's see here. Pankit's here, right? Macacarp, right? See, the thing is like, I feel like a lich is a lich because they spend a lot of time preparing to get where they are, right? They made a lot of contingencies. Like, liches are essentially the Batmen of the D&D universe, right? They have essentially evolved and gotten to a point where they are, have contingencies and plans within plans and backups within backups. I mean, that's what a phylactery is, and their entire dungeon surrounding their phylactery, and all this stuff, right? And all the planning going into making their phylactery. So, yes, that seems like they would have contingencies for all sorts of makes and models of heroes and magical entities. Now, if they've been down there for a while, or hiding out in their, that area, or no one's been in their phylactery for a long while, it could be kind of dated. Some new stuff on the scene that could get around it. some new players that are kind of, getting pretty powerful could, get around some things. But yeah, actively adjusting your dungeons and your encounters to essentially directly counter your players' abilities is not DMing. That's directly fighting them, in my opinion. Like, yes, you want encounters to be difficult and challenging, but not constantly negating everything they've just unlocked and learned, because then it feels like they're always underwhelming. That's just personal preference, so keep that in mind. One moment here, I'm gonna go grab a different hat. We'll be right back. In fact, while I do that, I'm gonna just run a quick little ad break. I promise this ad isn't boring. It's really funny, actually. If any of you are familiar with One for All or Deerstalker Pictures, you might be familiar with them. They helped us out with this.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before...
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him!
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever, find family, kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this?
Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have
To the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered mapmaker, on Steam today.
And we're back. Oh no, Bulba's too green. Give me a minute. Let me fix this. I gotta remedy this. This is unacceptable, Mac. You can't see Bulbasaur. People are gonna be mad. Nah, he's not a shiny. He's normal. This one doesn't fit my head as much because it's Mrs. Mac's hat, but yeah, it still does fit. I just can't wear my headset with it. But yeah, it's got the little vine tentacles. Quite cute. As you can see, it's got even the scales and stuff. Ears. Quite adorable. I really enjoy these hats. Fortunately, the Bulbasaur is just strangling my head, so I'm gonna switch. I'm just saying my head is way too big. Yeah, the green screen really messed it up. Anyway, moving on. Okay, let's get back to the build. Back to the build. What other things should I incorporate? Briganti blue. Tube. Maybe like one of these little pigment tins, right, to the side. And then, what other things would be on here? Need something like magical. Let's go look at the magical items and see if anything really pops. Hey, thank you so much for all the likes, TikTok. Much appreciated. Let's add a little mandrake to the side there. That's pretty cool. Let's Honestly, right now, TikTok is going crazy. We're getting so many likes. Thank you so much. That's from too much shopping. Maybe just like a small book or something. I'm gonna just shrink this book down, right? Trying to make this more practical, like usable stuff. So this is like his little workshop on the go, right? Let's put a coin on there too. Just like one coin, little coin. Okay, so one thing I love about this table is you can just shrink it all up. Now this is a magic item just sitting there. So if the players discovered this and investigated it, did like a check on it, right? Detect magic, they could determine this is a little portable alchemist lab in a tiny little amulet. The Amulet of Table is one of my favorite new items in the Magic update. Such a cool little fun item that can be used in a homebrew way. Let's add a fun pouch. Let's do a pouch of coins. Put that up on the top. No, let's put that over with the treasure. That makes so much more sense. Like on the ground next to it. But I do want a pouch over with his clothing, or like on this stand here. Put one at the top, shrink it down, change the color. But let's just teal purple match. And we're up to 2,000 likes on TikTok. Thank you so much, TikTok. Much appreciated. All the support means the world to me. Thank you, thank you. Well, yeah, I wanted to put a chest in here somewhere. Got a little jewelry box there, which can close. I left it open. Like these wooden chests, I really like these because you can set them pretty much anywhere and they just look like a little lockbox that people are just storing their trinkets in. Doesn't have to be anything fancy or... One of my favorite lockbox chests. And remember, chests, you can open them and put stuff inside. So what would this wizard have inside of this chest? I'm thinking papers. This could be like letters, right? Could be love letters. And we could always put a custom image on them to make them look like something like that. I have... Oh yeah, I forgot I don't have the mouse tracker. Forgive me for that. I really got to get in the habit of using the mouse tracker because during the streams. So now it just looks like it's got a letter or a note on that top document there, right? We could put something else inside. Cheyenne, oh my goodness, when's payday? I hope it's soon. Because we're on sale through the 27th. Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel. Oh my gosh, I'm noticing the chat is not refreshing right. I'm missing a ton of it. Hold on. Ah, there we go. Sayron, how you doing? So the color slider currently isn't so much a color slider as it is a hue slider, right? So it doesn't change the color so much as it just adjusts the hue, and it's more like a filter, right? The reason we chose to do that is because it didn't look really weird when you change the colors this way. Now, some objects do have color to them. In fact, you may have noticed, for instance, like candles, and a lot of objects now have like full customization where you can switch between a lot of colors, like a whole vast color palette, right? The reason we don't offer like a hex color choice selector so you can just pick and choose whatever is each of these are essentially created by hand to look as good as possible with that color, right? And if we used a hex color one, it may not look good across the board. Some of them will just look bland or brown or doesn't look correct with the effects and things on top of it. So I think that's part of the reason we have opted to kind of give you a palette of colors or the slider. Now, the Fun with Objects update should enhance that across the board, either offer way more color choices or increase the flexibility of the slider. I would ultimately love like a hex, you just like a color picker or type in the hex code, and that would be great. But it's kind of unrealistic with the art style in DA because some of the colors just would clash with the textures and skins on it. The potions also got this treatment, so you can go through and kind of adjust them, and they have like a really... struggling near this edge here, one sec. As you can see here, the color, not only does the potions have like movement, but the color's more vibrant. Before it was really only like one color option or the color slider, but now you have so much more at your disposal. Let's see here. What other items? This opens up, right? Something in. Trying to think of what to. Unfortunately, I don't have any slippers or nightgowns. I like that top hat, though. And I might just put scissors right here. Just a random little item. Does anyone ever just like look at the items in DA and kind of get lost sometimes and spend tons of time just staring at them to see what there might be? That seems lame. Let's put an interesting magical item in there. These boots, they never go where you want them. They always go to a different location. Okay. That or, ooh. I'm gonna put these over here, actually. For boots. And then I'm gonna put this weird hand inside this box. So I've trapped thing. Oh. I like it. I've noticed it's been a minute since I've saved. Remember to save often. Hey, Cheyenne, see you later. Talk to you later. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. Oh, you wish these were independent? So you could untag items from lights? Yeah, that would be nice. Hmm. You know, one thing I'm like, I get it. Like, none of the staffs are vertical, which is frustrating to me personally. Like they're just all laying sideways like this, which makes sense because then you can actually see them. But I'd also like a staff I could lean up against the wall or something, or put it in a display case like a sword. Like we have all these vertical sword, which goes great in here, by the way, I might add. Shrink it down. Okay, I feel like this is much more decorated. Feels more lived in. Usable, if you will. One thing I can say that would help you out is just generate without the objects and then rapidly add the lights with the shift method. Because you can, like, lights snap to walls, right? So you can just, like, doop, 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 fly through a whole area and add lights like that. So as long as collisions are on, you know, if you're doing like wall lighting, for instance, yeah, it's snapping to all these places. But if you hold shift when placing these, it automatically duplicates it. And then if there's a snap point nearby, it will snap onto it. Now, you can always disable snapping and just place it manually, like on a wall like this. So you have the option. A lot of objects snap, but to the grid, not necessarily to a wall. Objects that make sense to snap to a wall, like a painting or a light, will automatically snap unless collisions are disabled, TP. So if you have collisions disabled, they will no longer snap. They're just kind of a free-floating object that you can kind of rotate, raise up and down, do whatever you want. So same vein, a painting or something like that that should snap to a wall that it makes sense for it to do so, will attempt to do so. Furniture, things like that also. So you can, for instance, if a wardrobe or something where it makes sense, like a mirror, to be flat against the wall, it'll try and snap to that. Otherwise, most objects in DA will automatically snap to our grid. Notice how this is snapping. But if you hold control, you can disable that snapping. Alternatively, if collisions are disabled, it no longer snaps, but if you hold control, it does snap. So it reverses it. It's basically the opposite. Okay, I'm gonna save. But yeah, Chicken Mama, back to what I was telling you. If you just hold shift, right? Let's say you're just doing wall lights in a hallway, like a really long hallway, right? Just pick the wall light you want. Make sure collision's on. Hold shift, 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 and it just starts snapping them on. Just make sure they're at the regular intervals. If you have the grid on, makes it a lot easier for you. But if you hold shift, you can rapidly change them. And then let's say you want to change the color of all the lights. Like, so once all the lights are in place, let's say you want them to all be the same brightness and a different color. You can adjust the brightness of one light. And let's say you want them all to be blue, right? Make sure one light is highlighted, change the settings of it. Control C for copy. That'll copy the properties of the object, not the object itself, the properties. Notice it showed it there at the top. You can also go to edit and select it here. That's Command C if you're on, Apple. And then you can paste. And if you drag over the map, anything with a matching property, i.e. light in this case, will take the properties of that light you just adjusted if you drag it over it. So every light now in this vicinity is blue. You can do this you could do a lot of things with this tool, actually. You can turn all lights on and off. You can open and close doors or chests. You can disable or enable animations on objects simultaneously. Freshly baked croissants. I am using Streamlabs for streaming. I primarily use OBS for recording, and then I use Streamlabs for streaming because it offers a little bit better multi-stream support and integration, as we're streaming currently on like 6-7 different platforms right now, including TikTok, which Streamlabs actually offers direct support for. Never even heard of Zamada. Feel like that's a troll. Yep, I knew it. I felt like it was on its way. I knew it. It was one of those, like a dragon joke. I felt it. There was a tremor in the force. It was on its way. Absolutely hilarious. You got me. Oh Oh, there's the candle inside can be changed. I didn't realize that had a candle in it. That's so cool. Very cool. I'm kind of... I love extra details. And so that's where I'm at right now in this build, is just adding lots and lots of little details. So you were hoping I'd say, what's Zamada, right? Right? But I said I've never heard of Zamada, and it just totally derailed it. Quite hilarious, my friend. Centimar, are you watching right now? I see you lurking. I'm just trying to call you out. Because I got a question for you, my friend. There was a bee on the workshop that was a little bee. It was like a normal honeybee. And it had some animation to it. And I had it all around my garden and the little beehive, the apiary I set up here. And now it's gone because it says the asset's no longer on the workshop. And I'm pretty sure that was one of the ones you had shared. Is everything all right with that asset? It, from my end, from the admin end, it shows as hidden. I'm just curious. That bums me out, though, because I really liked all the bees. But it's no biggie. I'll get over it. It could be workshop. That is sad, actually, now that you say that, Mounds. Womp. Well, I do know Centimar shares a lot of assets that he finds, like, third party, right? And it could be possible that, you know, maybe he got a, like a takedown notice. That, or he might have accidentally moved it to hidden and didn't even realize it. Okay, let's move on to the next floor, shall we? So, we're gonna go into round, because what I want to do... Where is it? Where is it? Where is... Maybe I need to re-download it. Probably do. Okay. Yeah, I don't have it in my collection because I purged my assets this week. So I'm going to download this collection of circular assets, stairs, walls, and stuff that supplement DA and add more functionality. This is what I'm after, though, right here. By the way, we just launched a demo for Dungeon Alchemist, so if you're watching and you're just checking it out and you're like, oh, I really want to try this out, or you're sitting on the fence on a purchase, you can actually go to Steam and check out a demo for Dungeon Alchemist right now for free, and you can see how it works on your computer. It's essentially a kind of limited version of Dungeon Alchemist that gives you access to our tavern room type and the forest biome and a handful of objects and tools, so you can play around and get a feel for it, see how it runs on your system. Make yourself a simple tavern map. I think it's quite cool. Anyway, now that we've got that round wood platform, should be down here somewhere. There it is. It's like on the bottom. Oh yeah, I remember we were having having trouble stacking this. Okay, I'm gonna set this to the side. I'm gonna do a trick. You ready to be amazed? Step aside, boys. Get ready to let the big dog do his magic. Work his magic, right? Oops. Now what I've done is I'm setting this abstract object in the center of this room, floating at this height. This is the only floor I've had to do this because all the other ones seem to rest on top of each other just fine. But this one, I think as you get higher in DA, the verticality isn't quite sorted out yet for, you know, stacking things perfectly. But with these green abstract objects, you can insert custom images into them. So I'm going to insert a blank PNG, which now it's invisible. Okay? Can't see it, but it's there. I'm going to take this. Oh, it worked! Oh no, it's too tall. Okay, we're close. Dawn Goblin from YouTube asks, good morning, may I know which version of Dungeon Alchemist this is? This is the latest version, 1.638. This is the public version of Dungeon Alchemist, available on Steam right now. I'm gonna lower this, just, let's try a 5.5. That lines up great, but I'm noticing this canopy is cut through now, and I didn't notice that before. So, and trick, let's sync it. That's clean. That bit of the bed we plan to cover up with a telescope on this level. This is going to be an observatory. Just seeing how well that fits makes me happy. And we already spent the time aligning this stair to go up to this next level. Good there. The key now is to get these walls on the top. Too high. Okay, we need to make one more adjustment to the floor piece underneath. We're almost to the perfect height. Darn it. That's it right there. It's a bummer. Ah! So close. Okay. I'm gonna just shrink these because I don't want them through the floor. Eat that one. It should be below the wall now. It gets a little tricky when you start messing with these, like, multi-floor concepts. I'm not gonna lie, it's not, you know, very straightforward. It takes a little bit of finagling, I guess. Like, you gotta play around with it. Now we have 4th floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's impressive. I gotta say, quite impressive. Right, KO, blank PNG hype. Macog on TikTok asks, do you think there will be an update for more futuristic buildings looks, maybe like Fallout items and buildings? So our devs have repeatedly stated that once we have delivered on all our Kickstarter promises and leave early access, then we'll put time into developing optional paid expansions. So yes, after we leave early access, we plan to offer things that would expand the functionality of Dungeon Alchemist, giving you far beyond the planned and promised fantasy aesthetic, which was what we promised in our Kickstarter. So because Dungeon Alchemist has been seen as such a powerful and versatile tool, many people want to use it for other campaigns or other tabletop settings, maybe Starfinder, so sci-fi or cyberpunk or modern or Fallout or etc. We understand that desire and need for that, and ultimately we just have our existing development promises to deliver first. So once we leave early access, I'm assuming we'll launch them in a series. We'll probably pick one and then develop several thousand assets, probably a couple dozen biomes, 40 or 50 room types, and then it would be an optional paid expansion that if you purchase it, adds all that content within DA and just supplements it. So think of the olden days when expansions were optional and you got the core product as a solid core product, and then you could add the expansions on to give you more functionality. So does that answer your question there, Macog? Let's see here. Let's go. Love that. Mrs. Mac made me a shingled spire roof where a slat opens so you can actually put the telescope out. I got to import it into DA, so we'll take a look at it soon, but just going to take a look at this and decide what would be up here. I'm thinking some, like, books, some shelves with books and, like, a desk just covered in, like, like an astronomical chart. I think an astrolabe and maybe the Starcatcher scope. Like, stuff like this would be really cool in here. Just like when you go to access a map on the workshop that you don't own the assets for, it'll say, hey, you don't have access to these assets, and it will likely give you the option to purchase them. And you could just skip it, So it'll probably just be a similar prompt to just like any map on the workshop if you try to download it, and there's assets in it that you don't own. So let's say, here, I'm just going to make sure I saved really quickly. Saved. Workshop. I'm going to select this map here. Actually, we'll do this. This one here is a great example. By the way, Macog, are you still present? This map actually was made using assets on our workshop. And so users in our community share 3D models on the Steam Workshop. And you can import custom 3D models into your copy of DA. So you can essentially start making modern day or Fallout maps now. There's a few Fallout maps on the workshop right now. This Snack Bar Z map that I'm downloading actually is like a modern day zombie apocalypse starter. So it's like the first day of the apocalypse. But notice, Dryo, as I'm downloading this, it prompts me to download the assets, and it'll say download selected. So it'll be, I'm assuming for the free ones, it'll do something like this, but for ones you don't own, it'll be like, you must own these assets to use them. Would you like to purchase them or just skip them? And if you skip them, they'll just not be existent in the map. So watch what happens if I skip these. It'll be a very blank map with next to nothing on it, because they incorporated a lot of third-party assets to make this work. So that's the basic version, right? Let's do it again, but I'm going to actually download them. Hey, KO'd, I saw you over on TikTok. Sorry, I'm trying to watch all the chats, and it's just like, it's a new thing for me to keep track of over there. So instead, this time I'm going to download the map assets, right? Which, by the way, we've increased the performance of Steam Workshop assets. The download speed is increased. The user performance on the back end after you download them, both load times and just overall performance, has been increased. So we had a lot of feedback and reports coming in that lots of assets would cause DA to load slowly or crash or not run at all. And we pinpointed the issue and fixed it. So that's been sorted out. Also, if you upload lots of assets, that's been improved as well. Oh, I just felt bad, especially because I saw you come over here, so I figured, hey, that's probably, you know. Oh my gosh. We've had a few follows in the last 15 minutes. I apologize for missing those. Jacob and Alessandro on Facebook and Nega Matt Plays on TikTok, or I mean Twitch. Thank you so much for the follows. Welcome, welcome. I would assume that yet again it will just be blank in the spaces where we're using content you don't own, just like the previous example. So it would be just like you playing into a Minecraft expansion that you don't own the content for. It would be like blank. You know what I mean? So ultimately, though, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it, but I'm assuming it would act a lot like this exact setup. A lot of assets in this one. The workshop seems to be kind of slow today. I was playing with the demo the other day. It's kind of cool. Unfortunately, you can't just download the demo if you already own a copy of DA, so I had to make like a whole new Steam account just to play with the demo. And I was recording, messing around with it and stuff, because I'm trying to make a little video to showcase it and let people know about it. But it's pretty neat to just have an option to make like a tavern for free, essentially, and to play around with the tool and see how it functions on your various machines. Try before you buy, so to speak, you know, a test drive. Really happy the devs finally did that, because we've been without a demo since launch. Well, since early access launch. So, initial feedback on the cursor highlighter. Are you a fan of the cursor highlighter and click pinpointer? Or is it distracting? Because the hope was that it would make it easier to track the movements that I'm using in Dungeon Alchemist to see what's going on. But as you can see, this is a drawer. Oh, I didn't download the same one, but essentially it would be the same concept. A very stripped down, nothing here. Most of these assets, save like the floor and a couple of these walls and doors, these are stock. But like that toilet, counters, oh, that's stock. That pan is stock. That wine thing is stock. That's definitely not stock. We didn't even see that. These are all from the workshop. So it is possible to build all sorts of neat settings within Dungeon Alchemist because you can place objects by hand and, you know, do all these intricate builds just like a Lego or, you know, like building blocks. Okay, let's go back to my map. Let's go back to my map. Let's go back to my map. I think I have like control to bring attention as a Windows setting. In Windows, in the mouse settings, you can do that. Set a hotkey to like highlight the mouse. So I do this too to help. Well, and there's a lot going on the screen. Like if you're new to Dungeon Alchemist, this is a lot of data to interpret and look at and understand. So I could see this being like a little bit hard to understand and comprehend, right? So in my mind, I like offering like more options and versatility. And this mouse tracker will do that for tutorials, for streams. And like I said, the keystroke tracking, I think I'll incorporate soon as well, which will allow you to see when I'm holding control or shift or which hotkeys I'm pressing, which combinations. Man, I am absolutely astonished. Today on TikTok, the stream had over 2,400 likes. That's insane. That's like so much support. Thank you for the phenomenal support. I mean, all our platforms were like coming out to play today, but I just have never seen that amount of likes. That's crazy. You were 100 of them. Oh, so you can like again and again and again. You can just spam like? See, I didn't know that. I assumed those were all individual users. Oh, that's cool. Well, thank you for the love, KO'd. I appreciate that. Your loyalty will be remembered. Does it show you how many times you've liked it? I play a game like that at the gas station where I try to get it exactly. I like try to stop it exactly at an even dollar. But then my brain, if I go over like a penny, I have to go to the next dollar, which doesn't always work when your gas tank's full. So I do it well before it's full. Like a gallon under so I can go up a little. Am I the only one that plays that game? You try to get it exactly. It's like those games at like an arcade where you just, the light would go around, you try to get it right in the middle. Oh my gosh, Will. Oh my gosh. But yeah, at arcades, there used to be a game, it was like a bunch of light bulbs inside a dome, right? And the lights would light up, and each, like at a corner of each, like of the dome, there's not a corner of a circle, but you know, at each like section at like a equally spaced interval, there was a spot where in between two lights was a bulb that if it lit up in there and you stopped it there, you would get a huge amount of prizes or tokens or tickets or whatever. And I got pretty good at that one. Dry out. Or Dyrozix. Dyro. I'm gonna get it right from now on. Dyro, honestly, that is hilarious, though. I just keep a gas can with me so I can roll over a little bit. Okay, so what kind of things would you put in an observatory? I feel like a desk or a table just covered in documents and charts and stuff is a good idea. Like, I could do one of these kind of like rounded desks that kind of fit well next to it. And then I could try to find one that has more stuff. That one looks pretty cool. Cluttered. So I have the Star Catcher Scope, which is in fact a moving star map, and you can insert a custom image into that if you wanted to. I'm gonna just try and insert a whatever into it just to show you. Here, let's put a map. Yeah, that one's too bright. Let's make it dark. Yeah, that's just too washed out. It needs to be more plain. I've never played with this, so I'm not 100% like certain how well it'll work. Let's try this. Can't even see the magic. Okay, so that won't work. Let's try that. That's pretty cool. So that image, like, it moves around with it. So I could make an, find an image of a star chart or have my wife make one or something, and that would be part of that. So that's just an insert, like a temporary placeholder for now, but you get the idea. It's like targeting system. Target acquired. You see those little beans there? They're hard to see, but they are in fact there. Yes, I inserted some toe beans in there. Like this little paw print. But that one, it doesn't work. And the other one, it looks weird. You can kind of see the outline of the beans right there. Really faint, but they're there. Anyway. But this desk here, I want to kind of clutter it, and I wanted to put a paper that could be customized. So I'm going to shrink down this. Tuck it up in this. Because it's cluttered and used. Let's turn the light back on, though, so we can... And then there's I know we have like customizable paper. So you can grab like one of these parchments, right? This scroll has something. This stamped document you could insert text into. So I could insert like a map or a star chart into it. Something like that, for instance, to make it a little bit more custom. That map doesn't necessarily fit that very well, but you get the idea. Put this. That one looks. Goodness. Oh, it's jumping below because the angle I'm at. Anyway, we also have these papers you can insert custom things into. And we have I think there's a parchment like this one you can insert something into. One of these parchments you can. This one. That's another great way to insert like a map or a star chart or something like that. That one's a little bit better for me. Thinking of putting another like smaller telescope in here. Something to the side, you know. that is moved over from time to time. Anyway, okay, I think we need to wrap up the stream. I've gone a little long today. We're now almost 30 minutes over. So I'm going to wrap up the stream. I really appreciate everyone hanging out with me today while I... Oh, a blackboard is a good idea on this level too. Yes, correct. Blackboard is a good idea. I think I'm going to put some shelving and some blackboards, books. Appreciate everyone chilling out, watching the build, learning from it. Remember, my name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is what you see in front of you, this beautiful map maker that is available on Steam right now at 20% off. And for the first time ever, there's actually a free demo available, so you can try Dungeon Alchemist out, kind of a basic version of it that gives you a feel for it, so you can see how it runs on your machine, and get an idea of what it's like before you buy. Try before you buy. And like I said, 20% off through the 27th, so make sure you take advantage of it. Really great deal. Seisu, can you drop some links for that kind of stuff, please? Let's get the blackboard in here before I forget. I think we call it a chalkboard. Blackboard. There we go. I kind of want to use one of these rounded ones. I feel like it'll snap to this wall. Okay, so this blackboard does not snap. Doesn't make. Am I going crazy here? It just floats? Okay. Yeah, that makes 0 sense. I'm just gonna put one of these. We'll put some images on this later. Well, it makes no sense from a development standpoint. This should snap to a wall. It should snap to round walls. It should snap to flat walls. That's the point of what the snapping is for. So that's what I'm saying. From a development aspect, it's not doing what it should be. So if collisions are on, right, it should snap to this wall. That being said, I don't have to snap it. I could just put it there manually. But everything in this entire build is designed in a way that it's set on each floor, and it's very easy to move the floor as a solid piece. And that would, again, negate the point of all the work I've done in the build so far. So like right now, I can move this whole thing as one solid piece, this floor. I'm gonna let the devs know about that. I think that's an overlooked bug. This should snap to walls, right? And it should snap to round walls, which it's not. Anyway, moving on. I really appreciate each and every one of you hanging out today, supporting the stream. Whether you were actively chatting or you were just lurking, whether you followed, liked, subscribed today, or it's your first time, viewing, or you're a long time supporter of the channel. Thank you so much for being here. You are absolutely amazing. Our next stream, for any that are interested, is on Wednesday in our Discord. That is office hours, which is kind of a more laid-back stream. Instead of a focus on map making, it's a stream that we host in our Discord every Wednesday. And essentially, we provide live support. I take notes on your feedback and suggestions, and we look at community maps and just kind of hang out and vibe. Sometimes we talk about our campaigns or discuss, even like last week we got into sci-fi a little bit and talked about Stargate. So sometimes we'll just kind of branch out, but it's definitely a more laid-back stream to just kind of provide support, but also be a space to hang out and get to know the other map makers and GMs in our community. The following stream is Saturday. That's the Dam stream. Every other Saturday, we host a stream where we showcase community maps and assets from the Steam Workshop and our Discord channel, and we essentially showcase them and discuss the various things they did in them and the tips and tricks that were needed to make those kind of fun builds. Anyway, I hope to see you at either one of those. Otherwise, my name is Mac. I am the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is an AI-powered map maker available for 20% off on Steam. And I do want to reassure you that the AI in Dungeon Alchemist is not like all other AIs you're familiar with, and it's kind of a trigger word at the moment, so bear with me for a moment. Dungeon Alchemist's AI was developed entirely in-house by an indie team of developers. At no point was any public maps, art, assets, or data scraped to train our AI, so it was developed entirely in-house and trained in-house. All the assets used in our AI were made in-house by a talented team of artists. And when I say a talented team in-house, there's less than 10 of us on the team. So a very passionate group of artists and developers who love tabletop gaming and wanted to make a tool that could speed up your map making and allow you to save time on session prep. So that's what the AI is for in Dungeon Alchemist. We feel it was very ethical and above board in its development, and we took a different approach than most of the generative AI that you see. And keep in mind that our AI is kind of like a last-gen procedural AI, so it isn't even really on par with the most modern AI. Anyway, moving on from that soapbox, there is a free demo available if you want to try it out, see how it operates on your system, and it is the best time available to get Dungeon Alchemist because of the sale. So make sure you take advantage of that if you were sitting on the fence or had it on your wish list, so you can get the best deal possible. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out. We'll see you next time I give a damn. Mac out. Bye.